Hi everyone, welcome to another video, and this time I'll be talking about the new Japanese Netflix show The Boyfriend, focusing on one of its central relationships, Dai and Shun. The Boyfriend is Japan's first LGBTQ reality dating show where a group of young men in search of love and friendship share a house for the summer, and there are activities in each episode that facilitate them to declare their interest for someone, encouraging them to share their feelings. And the context is that Japan is still largely a traditional conservative society where LGBTQ representation is quite low, and talking about feelings is also uncommon. So I found this show actually very sweet and endearing. There were many moments that got me quite emotional. First, the usual disclaimers. I understand this is an edited show. I don't claim to know these people. I also believe that people can grow and change. And also, I'm only able to interpret the English dubbed version of the show, not the original Japanese. So I accept that there might be some things that were lost in translation. A majority of the narrative was dedicated to the budding relationship between Dai and Shun. Dai was smitten with Shun immediately.
I'll definitely choose Shun. He's attractive. Seriously, I totally want to sleep with him today.
He was drawn to Shun's good looks, mysterious vibe, wanting to open up his hard shell.
I couldn't understand him. I enjoyed the moment, but I was also wondering if he likes me or not.
Whereas Shun was slower to develop feelings, he was drawn to Dai's warmth, honesty, and kindness.
Sometimes Dai overreacts to things.
Oh, yeah. He's like, it's delicious,
Exactly.
so delicious.
So at first, I didn't like that part.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's part of his charm. He's honest, and I think he's very kind too.
Yeah, he is.
I think a large part of their connection was from bonding over past trauma.
I've been through so much pain that I thought I'd never be able to fall in love again.
When I was a baby, I lost both my parents because they abandoned me. They left me in one of those at a children's home.
Are you serious?
Because Shun is so closed off from the level of hardship he's been through, Dai values their connection very much, as it would feel very exclusive. Someone who trusts no one has decided to open up to him.
I honestly don't know what exactly made you the way you are now, but you have to have your reasons, otherwise you wouldn't be like this. My only guess is that you've experienced something really difficult. I hope someday you'll trust me with the story of that experience.
But what I think is wrong here is that they only bonded over their experience of having been through trauma rather than bonding over their response to trauma going forward. Despite past pain, Dai responds with positivity going forward.
Dai was the easiest member of the house to hang out with, so I'm grateful to have him.
He maintains his openness and fun-loving self, still putting his heart out there into the world. Shun, on the other hand, responds with negativity. He's very pessimistic about people.
I think it'll be 0.
Shun is a negative person.
And he judges and blames everyone else as inadequate.
It seems like there have been times where he's felt like he's been vulnerable and he's been let down and hurt. He seems to be testing Dai to see how much he can handle and what he's willing to concede to prove that he's going to stick around.
Maybe.
To me, Shun loves in a very selfish way because he goes into relationships constantly making sure that he is never in the vulnerable position.
Tell us why you're upset.
It's a hassle.
And therefore always has power over his partner. And can you have compassion for Shun being this way because he's been through a rough childhood? Yes, it's understandable why he's so fearful of being vulnerable. But at the same time, I don't think it's fair that Dai should be the one to be punished as retribution. A major way that Shun keeps himself invulnerable is how he expresses himself, how he communicates. He's always making himself the judge of a situation, the one to be deciding, calling the shots, the one judging whether you meet his criteria or not.
There's not a single person here who's my type. So I didn't write a letter.
What?
Other people need to prove themselves to him.
But I am sure of one thing. He's gonna have to demonstrate that I'm the one, because I don't have it in me too.
And he's the one doing all the accepting or rejecting.
I think that's why it became a little bit easier for me to accept that you liked me. I saw that you were serious about your feelings.
And he never says anything remotely vulnerable, not even to reciprocate Dai when Dai has initiated.
It makes me really happy to know that you wanted to go on a date with me.
Well, I didn't have any other choices.
That's mean.
What?
Hey, you could say that better. Just say I wanted to go out with you.
And at first glance, people like Shun can be mistaken for having self-confidence and good boundaries.
It's because I admire your self-confidence. You seem like someone who understands himself. And I think that's because you have self-confidence. I sense that you're really able to love yourself. And I guess that means that you're ready to be loved by others as well.
But I don't think his behavior actually stems from confidence, but actually from a huge need for self-preservation because he's deeply insecure. His high, almost impossible standards are essentially a wall.
I think I often expect too much from my partners.
A wall he's built to stop himself from being vulnerable and getting hurt. It puts him in the safer and more powerful position of being the judge and doing the rejecting.
But what I was receiving in the relationship wasn't enough. I wanted to have more.
But at the same time, it stops him from forming meaningful relationships because he doesn't let anyone to get close enough.
That Shun's feelings for Dai are really getting stronger. In my opinion, Shun knows it better than anyone. But he can't accept it.
Yeah.
For some people who set really high standards, such as, oh, I'm only dating for marriage, it can be a form of procrastination to avoid intimacy.
I'm a little concerned about Shun's negativity.
When he was talking about marriage and kids, it sounded like he's so concerned about the future that getting to know someone casually might not fit into his plan.
You've essentially set the bar so high that no one is going to make the cut, especially when you rule them out quite early on. You also then can tell yourself that it's not your fault you're not in a relationship, you just have standards. Shun's deep insecurity is evident with his displays of jealousy very early on, literally day one. At the stage where Shun claims that he wasn't even interested in Dai.
You suck for sure.
We see so many instances of Shun's passive-aggressive possessiveness. First, it was when Dai told the group that he could love both men and women.
You mean that you're sexually attracted to both?
When I fall in love with men, I'm always like, wow, he's sexy. But with women, I always start with feelings.
If women are included in their love interests, I don't feel like I could win. There are too many competitors. I would be jealous when the rival is female.
Then Shun was super sulky when Dai had connections with the other men.
Dai, how did we meet?
I DM'd you because I thought you were really cool on Instagram. Did you?
Which of us did it first? Was it me or was it you?
Me.
Finally, it was their first proper conflict when Shun accidentally on purpose scrolled through Dai's photo gallery.
I accidentally opened his photo gallery. There were lots of pictures that looked like they would have been used on dating apps. It was shocking. I wasn't expecting it. Yeah, I think he's a playboy.
Shun was projecting his past trauma and the people who hurt him onto Dai.
I feel like I've completely destroyed a lot of things we've built up to this point.
It's just that in my past relationships, I found that some guys had those profiles. It never worked out with them.
He was making very big assumptions about Dai's character based on very generalized behaviors, i.e. being on dating apps, taking certain photos.
The surfer I broke up with was not a good person. So I promised myself that from that moment forward, I would always avoid those kinds of people.
We need to remember the context here. At this point in time, they've only met a few days ago. Dai is a single guy. It's completely normal that Dai would be on dating apps, and how he chooses to present himself on his profile is totally up to him. And look, it's okay for Shun to have his own preferences and be like, you're not for me, but you do you. But it was totally unfair for Shun to basically punish Dai, behaving like Dai has already been unfaithful to him.
Hey Shun, can you please join us?
Wake up.
Any opinions? None?
I didn't want to talk to him,
To die?
but honestly, I can't even look at him.
And this reaction is definitely nothing to do with Dai, because they've only met a few days ago. There's no time for Dai to have hurt Shun this bad within that time frame. It's Shun still reacting to his past and projecting it onto the present.
The photos were a red flag because of his dating history.
Yes.
If I'm being totally honest,
That was
it feels like the reaction is a bit exaggerated, but given Shun's past, I understand it.
And he's not giving Dai a chance to be judged fairly based on Shun's actual experience of Dai in the present.
When you see those kinds of photos, naturally you'll imagine all kinds of things. But I want you to know I already like you so much, and I want to keep getting to know you more. I want to make you feel that I'm a safe person for you to get close to, and I'm going to prove it with my actions.
Another way that Shun retains power and therefore feels safe in a relationship is that he flips the power dynamic with fake vulnerability to make sure he's on top again. After feeling all the jealousy and insecurity seeing Dai's photo gallery, Shun tricks Dai into thinking that he's giving in and he wanted to kiss Dai.
I think a kiss might help me to make this more clear. That if we kiss, I might know how I feel.
And so when Dai feels safe to make a move, Shun rejects him outright and embarrasses him.
Give me your hand.
What? What?
Let's kiss.
Now? No.
Why?
I don't want to. Not now.
I feel Shun did this to make himself feel powerful again. You can tell by the smile on his face.
Shun is such a schemer.
He likes to trap people in his swamp of love.
It's easy to get trapped.
Shun basically wants everything on his terms, and his terms are dictated by his mood swings, so it's forever changing.
Shun may be doing this to say, I'm okay being with you on my terms, but don't put your hand on me if I'm not in the mood for it.
But the boundaries he's giving him are inconsistent.
Yeah.
And it's not fair.
Over the course of the show, Shun has been very hot and cold, giving Dai a lot of mixed signals to confuse him.
I think just being friends sounds a lot better for me.
Despite what he said, he was messing with me and giving me mixed signals all day. Oh man, I really don't understand that guy at all.
And I noticed that Shun seems to only express affection physically and not with words. And he also tends to be most affectionate behind closed doors, where it's safe for him to be vulnerable. So because he's never said anything to you and most of his expression of love is not done publicly, he never declares anything. So it's very easy for him to backtrack and make you feel like you've made things up in your head. Basically gaslighting 101.
You know, last night when we hugged each other before we went to bed, it felt like we were acting the way people do when they have a special bond with someone. It felt like we were more than friends. Do you really want to start over and move forward only as friends, Shun?
Another form of mixed signals is what I call the equalising behaviour. Basically, he knocks you down a peg when you're up, but when you're low, he brings you back up. Shun turns down every opportunity to reassure Dai or reciprocate his feelings when Dai is feeling happy with their relationship.
I was very happy that you chose me.
Tough decision.
Really? Why?
I wonder if the feelings I have for you may not be genuine. Since you have been so open and loving towards me, I may be under the illusion that I like you too.
But he's the kindest and nicest to Dai when Dai was at his lowest.
I'm gonna try to comfort you by playing this.
Okay.
Very well. Try to relax. Just listen to the music.
Are you actually creating the music?
Shun basically keeps you down by making sure that you're never too happy with yourself, but he pulls you back in when you need him the most, so then you don't leave. I mentioned before that Shun wants everything on his terms, but his terms are forever changing. So on the one hand, Shun said that he wants his partner to show him that he's the one and basically do all the chasing.
He's gonna have to demonstrate that I'm the one, because I don't have it in me too. You know?
But on the other hand, he rejects Dai for being too forward and too expressive.
You're not a low-key guy. Seeing how you react with so much energy, I feel like we're very different. It makes me exhausted. I just think that you're not compatible with me.
If you're asking someone else to do 100% of the chasing, showing affection, creating the intimacy, then whoever is willing to do that is not gonna be a low-key guy.
Shun said he wanted Dai to show him that he liked him as much as possible, right?
Yeah, he did say that.
It seems like he's saying one thing, but expecting the opposite. But he's not seeing the disconnect.
Shun's contradictions, mixed signals, and refusal to communicate would make Dai feel very anxious and confused because he never knows where he stands with him.
Today, he ignored me completely, for no reason. I'm like, I don't understand Shun's feelings.
Shun makes life more difficult as well by never saying what he means. So we usually say no means no, but with Shun, no actually means yes. Because again, it's the least vulnerable way for him to say yes. What Shun does is he pushes you away and therefore being in the position to reject you, but then sulks and shames you when you don't come back against his will.
You know, you're all talk.
What do you mean?
You're saying you feel bad that you left me alone there, but your words and your actions don't match. I don't think that you actually practice what you preach. I don't.
If you don't come back, he accuses you of being a fraud, that your love for him was not serious.
I want to tell you one thing.
No, don't bother.
So again, Shun makes the other person take all the risk of being vulnerable, the risk of putting their feelings out there, the risk of being rejected. At the same time, he shames you into taking action, into making the relationship happen for him because he is interested. And so when all is said and done, Shun enjoys the narrative that everyone was chasing him.
Haven't you ever been chased by a guy like this?
I have, but I wasn't interested, so I ignored them.
He enjoys the narrative that you chased him, so you were more into him than he was into you.
Did you meet him here?
Yeah, I met him in Japan. And we became friends, then I found out that he had a crush on me. And well, he loved me. You know?
The no means yes behavior is also a way to test his partner.
I want someone who accepts all of me. And who has a strong will.
He expects you to still persevere even in the face of his rejection and bad attitude.
Why you have such an attitude with me?
Why do you want to know now?
I've wanted to know all day.
Why didn't you ask me then?
If you don't persist, he labels you as not being serious, again putting the blame on you and demonizing you for having self-respect and boundaries.
When I got irritable or upset with you, I was worried that maybe you were the kind of person who wouldn't take me seriously. I doubted you at first.
Unfortunately, with Dai, just as many of us when we were young, he's completely staying on the roller coaster with Shun because our culture still views romantic love as inherently difficult. Like, the more heart-wrenching and drama-filled, the more romantic.
I've never had this kind of relationship with someone who's so hard to understand.
Does it make you feel excited?
Sure, but also confused.
You're confused.
Yeah. For me, the person I fell in love with, who's challenged me the most in my life, is you.
I think Dai is in love with this idealized version of Shun, a guy who's handsome with a heart of gold, but is tarnished and hardened by trauma. Dai thinks he can rescue Shun from his past and be the one to finally show him what love is.
When I saw Shun sitting there, looking like he wasn't in a good place, like he was depressed because he wasn't able to confidently express what he was feeling, it hit me that, I'm interested in him and it hurts to see him upset.
Dai constantly sacrificing himself to heal Shun is so romanticized as unconditional love. He understands that Shun's coldness is because of his past trauma and interprets Shun's childish tantrums as a reflection of how much he actually cares.
You're all talk. You're saying you feel bad that you left me alone there, but your words and your actions don't match.
It seems like Shun has decided that maybe he doesn't want to just be friends.
At this point, I feel that Dai has put Shun on a pedestal.
Were you worried?
Me? Yeah. Until my name was called out, well, I couldn't smile. Since we didn't get to go the last time, I think being here with you now this time will be even more special.
Because of Shun's good looks, his air of exclusivity, his tragic backstory, Dai excuses Shun's inconsideration and rudeness for honesty and authenticity.
What I appreciate the most about Shun is he doesn't waste time trying to solve things by just pretending and smoothing things over. He's also really honest with me. When he says something, he means it.
He excuses Shun's coldness and passive aggression because he sees beyond Shun's hard shell and into the fearful inner child that drives him.
And there was a gathering for his whole family. I got to see a family that was really close with each other. I was shocked.
You couldn't believe something like that existed.
I thought I would like to have a family gathering of my own, like that someday too.
At this point, Dai is just happy for any scraps that Shun can offer, any glimpses to show that Shun actually cares. It's interesting that Dai put Shun on a pedestal when I think Shun deep down is envious of Dai's personality. Shun gets so annoyed when Dai is just being open, expressive, and happy.
It's nice to be this happy. It really warms my heart now.
Really?
Yeah, I'm very happy. I want you to know you're important to me.
The truth is I saw things I didn't like, and I kinda lost interest.
What?
It's actually ridiculous the level that Shun hates Dai when Dai is confidently expressive.
You seem to have good chemistry.
You think we have good chemistry?
I do.
Seriously? I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Sometimes his vibe is too much for me.
Oh.
Here, Dai and some other guys were just debating what's the best way to create a safe space for everyone to open up.
I feel the most comfortable sharing things when I'm at the dinner table. If we're able to plan a longer meal together, I'd really enjoy that, I think.
I want to enjoy my meal when I'm eating it. I'd prefer to have more of the deep conversations afterwards.
The conversation around me was going nowhere. So I was trapped in a negative space.
Essentially, everyone was just confidently expressing their own opinions and preferences, but it's almost like Shun is upset when Dai is too expressive, too open, too confident. when he's actually resentful that Shun himself cannot be those qualities.
You're expressing your feelings more than me.
That's true.
Yeah. But I'm not used to it. I'm not good at it.
And instead of introspecting and taking accountability for himself, Shun punishes Dai until Dai subdues himself to Shun's liking.
Shun. Shun.
What?
Misery loves company, and if Shun is miserable, no one else can be happy either. What I found particularly cruel is that Shun rejects Dai publicly a lot. Every time he's upset, whether it's Dai's fault or not. It's like he lashes out at Dai and blames him for being the cause of his mood swings when it's completely Shun's own stuff that he has to work on himself. What I found particularly spiteful is what he did at the go-kart race.
He's a monster.
He was so fast.
Basically, the winner of the race was able to ask any of the other guys to fulfill their wish, which usually means go on a date.
So tell us.
Come on, say it.
Say what?
Your wish.
Wait a minute. My wish? None.
Shun basically won that race just to have a chance to reject Dai publicly.
Really?
And I found this really inconsiderate to the group because he basically also took away the chance of a positive experience from everyone else. Another couple could have gone on their date, but because of Shun, no one went. Shun does get a redemption arc on the show where he finally apologizes to Dai for hurting his feelings.
There's one thing I couldn't say to you. I made you sad, and I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear that.
However, I think what happened here is that Shun only self-reflects and admits fault because he rejected Dai publicly and everyone else reacted.
If you want to work with me, raise your hand. What? Okay.
Why didn't you raise your hand?
On his own, Shun didn't think he needed to apologize.
I didn't say I was sorry to him. I don't think I have any reason to apologize.
He only changed his mind and apologized after reflecting on the group consensus.
If you think you might have hurt his feelings because of the choice you made, you can take some time to figure out whether or not it was the right thing to do. You can maybe say,
I made you sad. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Overall, Shun is very selfish with his feelings. He only thinks about what feels good for him and protects himself from feeling bad at the cost of other people.
I didn't want to choose you for the first sleepover date.
That's horrible.
I didn't want to have the same weird feelings I had on our first date.
He only thinks about himself and what works for him.
Since I said we should just be friends, he's been different. He's no longer clingy. When he's less forward, I feel more comfortable.
He doesn't think about what he can do and contribute to other people.
It seems like Shun is starting to warm up again.
But he hasn't said anything about how to make Dai happy.
Right. No, he hasn't.
He also puts the blame on everyone else. So when relationships fail, it's never his fault.
How were your past relationships?
Totally lame.
Were they all bad?
I'm ashamed of my past self. I'm like, why did I fall in love with that kind of guy?
Even though Shun might feel powerful in being invulnerable, his passivity also puts him in a powerless position where he relies on the other person to make things work. Shun basically doesn't do anything to make a relationship work. He relies on his partner alone to give 100%, to change and compromise.
Up until now, he probably got everything from his exes.
Right?
Yeah, he was the one receiving love.
He's actually super passive. He doesn't do anything to contribute to his own happiness. Here, after an argument, Shun is asking Dai what would happen if they find themselves in the same situation again.
So you think if something like this t-shirt thing happens again, and if I ever say something like, I don't want you to talk to me, we'll be back here again?
He's implying that he's not planning to do anything differently.
I'm confident that I won't let you do this again.
And it's solely up to Dai to change in order to get a different outcome. It's not that I don't have compassion for Shun and what he's suffered being an orphan, but I also think that the only way forward is for us to do our own healing. We have to heal and work on ourselves in order to not repeat the patterns that we had to develop during trauma in order to cope. Toxic patterns that no longer serve us in our current situation. We can't just do nothing and expect someone else to make it happen for us. We can't just be like, okay, I've paid my dues now. Happiness should be served on a plate to me. A good question that was raised on the show was how much compromise is too much?
Dai is working hard to figure out who to be for Shun.
He's trying.
I'm worried that he's compromising too much.
Look, I agree that it's important to learn how to compromise with your partner, as long as it isn't harmful for us to do it. If you have to change your personality to the point where you're not true to yourself, you'll regret it.
That's right.
But adapting to the needs of your partner is something that happens when people fall in love.
And some people really want to accommodate their partners.
That's right.
My view is if you're finding yourself giving and compromising the majority of the time in order to appease your very sensitive partner, it may create short-term harmony, but the result is that you're training your partner to expect you to do all the work. You've created no incentive for your partner to contribute, to be accountable. Your constant compromise won't make either of you happier in the long run because you're teaching your partner to solely rely on you for their happiness. You've spoiled them to think that they don't ever need to do anything and that they are not accountable for their own emotions. Their moods are completely dependent on what you do or you don't do, and therefore you're depriving them of their chance to grow. On your end, shouldering all that emotional labor inevitably is going to build resentment within you towards your partner.
When I start feeling like he takes my feelings, acting like my feelings don't matter, or when he's acting spoiled and shuts down, it's like, hey, don't take this for granted.
And this is why when Shun and Dai finally kiss in episode 8,
that kiss was fantastic!
The build-up to that kiss!
The build-up was wonderful!
it did not fill me with joy. To me, this kiss is just a confirmation that their current dynamic is the dynamic going forward. The once lively, expressive Dai has subdued himself, diminished himself enough in order to appease Shun's fragile ego.
Shun.
Here, Shun initiates the kiss after making Dai back down and wait. He is rewarding Dai for submitting to him.
Were you waiting?
You kept me waiting so long.
This kiss does not represent some kind of turning point where Shun gives in and finally treats Dai in a more equal and loving way. Shun is not going to change because he doesn't need to. Shun is getting everything on his terms, and Dai is currently a very willing participant. As immediate proof of my theory, in the very next episode after this epic kiss, Shun throws another tantrum because Dai didn't wear a t-shirt that Shun told him to wear.
Shun said, you can wear this t-shirt, it's clean. I just wore it for a little while. I said, thanks, I'm good, I have a new one. But he insisted, hey, this one's clean. So I took it at the time saying, oh, okay. But then I just put on what I wanted to wear, just like I usually do. And Shun said, you're not wearing that.
And look how Shun punishes Dai when Dai does not submit to him, when Dai has his own mind.
Right now, I can't enjoy myself around somebody. That's why I need a little space.
From us?
from him.
Halfway through the season, a new guy joins the house called Ikuo. Ikuo instantly gets on with Dai and sees his relationship with Shun for what it is.
I'm a bit worried.
About what?
About you.
About me?
Yeah. When I see you, it's really painful for me.
Really?
You've been very patient with him. He tosses you around so much. I feel like this situation must be hard for you.
And Ikuo tried to fix things for Dai by holding Shun accountable with the group.
What you're feeling isn't something that makes sense to Dai. It's creating confusion. If you don't communicate, while we're all here together, everyone's gonna worry about it.
He's trying to protect Dai in his way.
So Shun and I just had a talk. He's agreed to speak to Dai and tell him what he's feeling, with all of us present.
Hey, Ikuo, why did you do that? Seriously. Did you ask him to discuss it?
No.
Did he ask you to discuss it?
No, I talked to him, but...
Really?
And the reason I think Dai overreacted with anger here is that he knows that Shun is probably really annoyed about being put on the spot and having to talk to the group. But Shun won't admit this because he's passive aggressive. So if Shun is secretly upset, that's more trouble for Dai, the whipping boy. And it's unfair that Dai lashed out at Ikuo, the person who actually cares about him.
Oh, no cry, baby, don't cry.
It's really sad that, in a way, Dai is replicating what Shun is doing, lashing out at the person who cares because it's safe to.
When I looked over, I saw that he didn't raise his hand.
I saw that too. He feels secure in your relationship.
He does.
Whilst pandering and spoiling the one who makes him feel insecure because it's not safe. A heartbreaking theme that came up for me is that if you don't love yourself, you're going to be blind to those who do love you wholeheartedly. Dai was actually very popular before his singular focus on Shun.
What? I told you, right? You got 3?
Please work with me.
My pleasure.
Because Shun kept leading him on, Dai wasn't able to give anyone else a chance who fancied him, the biggest example being Ikuo.
I had feelings for you, but because I knew that you were developing a relationship with Shun, I felt I should step back.
Dai and Ikuo got on instantly. Their energies matched. They're naturally compatible.
Oh,
we're kind of hitting it off. Isn't this insane?
Like
we're so alike.
However, to not upset Shun, even though at this point it was Shun who broke things off with Dai, Dai puts Ikuo in the friend zone. Dai also met Shun first, and because he's already invested time and emotion into Shun, he stays and ignores his feelings and compatibility with Ikuo.
Honestly, I thought, wow, he's great. You definitely, in some ways, captured my heart. You really did. But on the other hand, I focused on continuing to develop my relationship with Shun. At this point in time, I'm not in a place where I can see anyone else in a romantic way besides him.
This is sunk cost fallacy, and I personally found that heartbreaking to watch because I've been in Dai's shoes myself before. In the end, I think we all have to decide individually what we want from a relationship.
Is it better to be loved or to chase after someone to make them love you?
Dai had 2 options. Either fighting for someone who he deems superior, working hard to win them over, chasing after validation.
You have taken me seriously, haven't you? I wasn't really sure until today, but now I'm certain about the feelings that I have. I love you.
Or to be with someone who is instantly compatible, who respects him and accepts him, and that he's never confused about what this person feels.
I saw you being treated badly in a way I would have hated if it were done to me. I'll never let you feel anxious. I won't let you feel bad. I'll always treasure you. I'll put your feelings first, and I'll do what I can to make you happy. So can you think of me romantically, not just as a friend?
We need to be honest with ourselves about what we are seeking in our relationships. Do we want approval where our worth is validated by whether we win someone over? Or are we looking for acceptance, where we feel safe to be ourselves in a reciprocal relationship? To conclude, I'll talk a little bit about their dynamic based on personality types. Dai and Shun actually share the same cognitive functions, but in a different order. And what this means is that there will be a sense of camaraderie, like we're the same. But over time, you'll realize that you actually have very different priorities from each other. And within your cognitive function stack, which of your functions you personally value most is actually very individual. It depends on your upbringing, your culture, your experiences. But in general, our lower functions tend to be the ones that we aspire to the most, versus our dominant functions, which we tend to take for granted. Often, I observe that if we've been through trauma, we tend to value our lower functions a lot. So then when we meet someone else with our lower functions as their dominant functions, there is a draw and admiration for them. However, how we respond to being with someone who embodies effortlessly what we want to be, that's our individual choice. Dai and Shun demonstrate the two extremes. With Dai, he puts Shun on a pedestal. He idolizes him and pines for his approval. Whereas for Shun, he responds with envy and anger because Dai makes him feel inadequate internally. So in order to not feel bad about himself, he pushes Dai away and rejects him. And this, I think, is essentially their dynamic in a nutshell. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it was helpful and interesting. Please like, subscribe, and share to support my channel. If you would like us to figure out your personality type and analyze your interpersonal relationships and decision-making, be it romantic, family, friendships, and work, then please find booking details in the description box below.